Hey everyone, welcome to the Bradlands, a land where democracy is still secure, where there is no secret police force spreading chaos and death, where it is accepted as fact that Venn diagrams are the very best diagrams, where the words from the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, are still remembered and practiced, although I would prefer it to read that all people are created equal, where billionaires pay their fair share because they understand that their fortunes were built on the sacrifices and hard work of thousands of workers and consumers, where the government works for all its citizens, not just the rich, where the truck nuts have all been melted down and turned into singing bowls, where justice is equal for all, no matter rich or poor, black or white, where science, not conspiracy theory, guides public health, where freedom is still a right for all, and where every person has a right to health care, housing, food, and dignity. I have a few things to add that I forgot in the primary filming. I'd like to interject those things here. First, sometimes I'll refer to Trump, but generally I like to refer to the people trying to undo our democracy as the administration. Trump is just an obnoxious tool being used by people much smarter than him. Second, I won't call those people dressed as law enforcement out there murdering people ICE. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement was formed in 2003 as a response to 9/11. They may say that this new batch of cosplay law enforcement people are ICE, but they're just an undertrained, underregulated, secret police force, much like the Gestapo of the 1930s Germany, so I'll refer to them as secret police. Third, as I've been studying history, I've gotten a clearer picture of the era Trump is probably referring to when he says, "Make America Great Again." When he first started saying this in 2015 or 2016, I thought he was probably referring to the 1950s. Back then, we were riding the high of helping win World War II. The economy was strong. A family could afford a house and a car on one income. So there were some good things happening. America was producing things and led the world in many categories. The parts of America that weren't so great, segregation, women's rights, etc., are things that Trump would find appealing. So he would love the 1950s. White men had it all. However, I think there's a time Trump would find even more appealing, the 1850s. Back then, America was still indiscriminately taking land they had no right to. Minorities had even less rights, like none. Women could have no role other than wife and mother. Workers had no right to say anything about working conditions. It was a Trump paradise. He could be every bit the asshole he wanted to be with no repercussions. Okay, so far the Bradlands is just an imaginary paradise represented by this YouTube channel. But maybe with some hard work, we can push America toward these ideals. At this moment, the Bradlands consist of this desk that I'm borrowing from my daughter, this giant whiteboard, this purple waffle plant, and me. The primary reason that I've decided to make this channel is to analyze what is happening in our country through the lens of history. Another reason is to create a community of people who care about the world and want to delve into America's problems. I live south of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the United States, and far too many people in my city, state, and country have a much different outlook on things than I do. So, since my physical community doesn't really feel like my community, I've decided to try to create one. If you're from another part of the world and are automatically inclined to dismiss me because I'm American, I get it, and don't blame you at all. My country has gone in directions that I find appalling and terrifying. And if I'm being honest, America doesn't have a great history either. We're built mostly on a history of exploitation, slavery, governance for and by the rich, and extreme consumerism. Trump's evil may be an outlier in modern history, but we've had some pretty bad presidents in the past as well. Slave-owning presidents, presidents willing to steal land from all sorts of people, through murder mostly, corrupt presidents, etc. We've had some bright spots of moral men like Lincoln, FDR, and Obama. But Trump is not the first villainous president we've survived. He's just the worst. Anyway, I've created the Bradlands to be a space free of judgment and discrimination, where ideas can be shared freely. And maybe we can even come up with some solutions to the myriad problems our world faces. I'm open to people who don't think like me joining, as long as they're open-minded and can discuss things in a kind and civil manner. I actually hope the people who don't agree with me will join us, because another big reason I'm doing this is to try to break the echo chambers. We're all preaching to our respective choirs, and it's broadening the divisions between us. There are lots of partisan communities out there, and while I am absolutely partisan, I'm hoping that through respectful conversation, we can find common ground and understand where the other side is coming from a little bit better. To those of you who are on the left, like me, I'm not suggesting that we try to find common ground with racists or Trump's secret police force who are murdering innocent people, or the other extreme MAGA. But I think there are some out there who have been in the Fox News bubble for years, maybe their whole lives, who have been lied to and just don't know what's happening, what's really happening. I'm willing to try to have discussions with those people. Some of you may be familiar with the Bradlands from TikTok, but I am seceding from that mess because of Oracle and Larry Ellison. I do not like Larry Ellison. I think these long-form videos are probably better suited for YouTube anyway. And I got my inspiration to build community on the internet from Hank and John Green. The Nerdfighter community is amazing, and I feel like it makes sense to build my community on the same platform. Since I'm asking you to join my world, I suppose I should start by providing some details about what my own outlooks are on things. Number one, my political views would probably be closest to those of a socialist Democrat. The recent American politicians who have found the most common ground with are Senator Bernie Sanders, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, it's a long name, and most recently Zoran Mamdani, the new mayor of New York City. Also, I think Donald Trump is by far the worst, most corrupt president we've ever had, and that's saying something. I'm looking at you, Andrew Johnson. 2. My religious views, or lack of religious view, is atheism. I don't begrudge anyone their religious beliefs, as long as they keep those beliefs separate from government, schools, and my faith. I believe that religion has often been used as a weapon by the ruling class to control the working class. Religion has also led to a variety of atrocities committed against those with different beliefs. Sorry, my hands need to be a little busy sometimes. I'm a vegetarian because I don't think our species has any right to subjugate and exploit the other species that live on our planet. This is number 3, by the way, I forgot to say that. If I see a bug or spider in my house, I ignore it, or put it outside, or put it in a part of my house where it is less likely to crawl in my ear while I'm sleeping. 4. I think most billionaires and many millionaires have exploited either employees, consumers, or both to some extent. Some billionaires have a decent history of philanthropy, but they could all do so much better. You too, Taylor Swift. 5. I think the degradation of our environment is the biggest existential threat to our continuation of our species, not to mention most other life on the planet. It is in large part due to the actions of humans. 6. I think an important role of government is to ensure that all of its citizens are provided with the basics of life: housing, food, healthcare, and dignity. When a country allows some of its citizens to be homeless, hungry, or diseased, while others have mansions and yachts, something has gone terribly wrong. 7. I think women should play a larger role in leadership, whether it be in government or business. In general, it seems to me that women's priorities when in leadership are more in line with my own than men's are. 8. In the United States specifically, I think Congress needs term limits and age limits. The Supreme Court needs age limits and a term of no more than 20 years. Our election system should be overhauled to include ranked choice or cumulative voting and no electoral college. Also, lobbyists should be eliminated and money should be removed from elections. It makes them entirely unfair. And finally, federal politicians and judges shouldn't be allowed to trade stocks while in office. 9. Kindness and generosity should be celebrated, not seen as weakness. 10. I don't have a specific solution for this one, but America needs an overhaul of the criminal justice system, including the policing system, the prison system, and the court system. It is currently designed to benefit the rich and punish the poor, especially minorities. 11. We need to put some limits on guns, especially assault rifles. I could go on and on, but I think 11 is enough for now. I'm going to reveal a bit of my nerdiness here, but you are going to find out eventually. Bear with me as I describe for you a scene from Lord of the Rings. I promise it's relevant. Frodo said to Gandalf, "I wish it need not have happened in my time." "So do I," said Gandalf, "and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us." Frodo was referring to the One Ring. I'm referring to Donald Trump. I wish our country wasn't slipping into authoritarianism, but it is. And I feel like I need to do my part to push back against that. I've thought a lot about what pushing back should look like, and this is the primary way I thought of to do that. We all have our own set of skills and talents, and I think mine are best suited for doing this. I've always regretted choosing to get my degree in English literature, as it hasn't benefited me at all in my life, but perhaps that degree's time to shine is now. If nothing else, it helped me learn how to express an idea. It has also given me a broad base of knowledge through reading a whole bunch of books, some of which I didn't really want to read. One thing it didn't do is make me a great public speaker, as you can see, so bear with me as I attempt to learn how to do that. Anyway, here I am trying to change the world through talking to this camera. Are there any words I can say that will change anything? Maybe. History is full of people without money or political power, that would be me, who changed the world with words. Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Greta Thunberg, another name I'm going to mispronounce coming up now, Malala Yousafzai, etc. I said earlier that I hope all of us can be open-minded when discussing viewpoints different than our own. However, there are some arguments I will never be open-minded about. If you use the Bible to support your argument, it won't get any traction with me. I think the Bible or any other religious text, sorry, little cat allergy happening, any other religious text is just a book of stories written by regular people. Also, if you can't accept the idea that Donald Trump lies often, then we won't have much to discuss. The fact he lies is beyond dispute. His inauguration didn't have the biggest crowd ever. He didn't win the 2020 election. January 6th was not a peaceful protest, and all those people shouldn't have been pardoned. Some of them were whacking police officers with flagpoles. I'm not going to go into too much history in this initial video, but I'm going to give an example of an event from our past that has commonalities with the events happening now. I'm going to discuss President James Polk's acquisition of land in the 1840s. At that time, the land that would become the states of California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and parts of Colorado, Wyoming, Kansas, and Oklahoma, so a whole lot of land belonged to Mexico. Polk wanted that land, just as Trump wants Greenland now. Polk started by trying to buy the land from Mexico, but Mexico wasn't interested. His next tactic was to take it from Mexico by force. He didn't want to be the one to start the war because he didn't think his citizens would approve of that. So he sent some cavalry troops into the area as a move to instigate conflict. It worked. It isn't known who fired the first shot, but some American soldiers were killed, unfortunately. Polk said, "Mexico has invaded our territory and shed American blood upon American soil." Not true. Abraham Lincoln, who was in Congress at the time, introduced the spot resolutions, in which he demanded proof that the spot where American blood was shed was indeed on U.S. soil. No proof was given, probably because they weren't. Patriotism has been used throughout our history to manipulate people. Loving your country and wanting to protect it are good, but it's an easy tool of manipulation for liars. While Polk was doing this, Henry David Thoreau, in protest of our actions against Mexico, as well as slavery, refused to pay his poll tax and was put in jail. Ralph Waldo Emerson visited Thoreau in jail and asked Thoreau why he was there. Thoreau responded by asking Emerson why he wasn't in jail. Thoreau believed it was his responsibility as a citizen to push back against what he saw as an immoral government. Polk used the questionable incident between Mexican and American soldiers to declare war against Mexico. Ulysses S. Grant, who was definitely not a woke crusader, called our war with Mexico one of the most unjust ever waged by a stronger against a weaker nation. We won the war and acquired all that land. I'm sure you can see some similarities between events then and the current administration's efforts to acquire Greenland. Also, we've seen Trump sending troops into areas where they're not necessary to try to instigate conflict. The Rose protest led him to write Civil Disobedience. This essay was part of the inspiration for Gandhi's nonviolent protest methods, which we are using today to resist our authoritarian government. I'm sure the people behind what this administration is doing, Stephen Miller, the Heritage Foundation, whoever is pulling the strings, believe that the ends justified the means. We acquired a lot of land because of the Mexican-American War and made America bigger and richer. However, I personally don't want to live in a world where might makes right. Just because we could take land from Mexico doesn't mean we should have. Just because we could take Greenland doesn't mean we should. Just as we took land from the Native Americans, not to mention taking Guam, the Philippines, and Puerto Rico, which we acquired in the Spanish-American War. These are the things that happen when we put immoral bullies in charge. Polk then, Trump now. It's not just the immoral actions that I object to, but the lies that are told to justify them. Now, I'd like to speak directly to the Trump supporters for a moment. There are many reasons why people have chosen to follow Trump. I'm going to use a Venn diagram to illustrate this, because as we all know, Venn diagrams are the best. Future Brad will be drawing the diagrams for us, and we'll be back after that. Hello, I have been asked to create a Venn diagram of Trump supporters. Just in case you're not familiar with Venn diagrams, let me make an example. That circle is people who think Milky Ways are the best candy. That circle is people who have good taste in candy. There's no overlap because anyone who has good taste in candy would not like Milky Ways. So they're completely separate. still people who think Milky Way are the best candy. This larger circle is people who have bad taste in candy, because anyone who thinks the Milky Way are the best candy are within the group of people who have bad taste in candy. But not everyone who has bad taste in candy does think that Milky Ways are the worst candy. Maybe they think Three Musketeers are the worst candy. They're pretty close to right either way. So let's say this circle, Trump supporters. There's some groups that contain Trump supporters, but also people who don't support Trump. One of those would be billionaires. A lot of billionaires support Trump, unfortunately, most of the tech ones. But there are still some outside who don't support Trump. So there's a little bit of each. Mark Cuban, he doesn't support Trump, so he'd be a billionaire out here. Elon Musk and a bunch of other tech doofuses would be in here. But if we take racists, they're pretty much all going to be Trump supporters. Not all Trump supporters are racist, but all racists are Trump supporters. We'll put an R in there. We could also put in here misogynists. If you're a misogynist, you're not voting for Kamala Harris. So not all Trump supporters are misogynists, but anyone who is a misogynist is a Trump supporter. So misogynists, we'll make this one homophobes. That little group is somebody who is all of those. It's probably a bigger spot than that, but Venn diagrams even have their limits. So yeah, I think that kind of sums up the groups who are definitely Trump supporters. Thanks. I don't think there's much chance of persuading any of these groups to turn their backs on Trump. There's one more group, though, and this is a group I have some sympathy for. Those who have fallen for the lies and believe Trump has their back. I have some sympathy for these people because they've been manipulated by a con man who only wanted to use these people for their votes. I grew up in a small rural town that used to be majority Democrat, because Democrats are the ones who actually have those people's backs, if anyone does. And it is now majority MAGA. I can't entirely blame this group, just as I wouldn't blame cult members for being manipulated by a cult leader. This group is generally blue collar and often didn't attend college. Listen, guys, you're being lied to. Trump and his administration and the right-wing media is manipulating you. The right wing has told you that college is indoctrinating people to be liberals. College isn't indoctrinating anyone. If anything, it ends up creating some liberals by giving them knowledge and empowering them to think for themselves. When a person has knowledge and can think for themselves, they tend to become liberals. Unless they're heartless, then they become Stephen Miller. Ba-dum-bum. The right wing's attempt to dissuade people from going to college is a more subtle form of when they didn't allow slaves to learn to read in the 1800s and not sending girls to school in the 1700s. It's a form of control the white men have always used to help them keep control. They can't come right out and ban learning to read and write anymore, but they can suggest maybe education isn't very important or possibly even bad. The more you learn, the less you'll fall for the right wing's BS. You'll notice that the ruling segment of the right wing goes to college and probably graduate school too, and they send their kids to college as well. They just don't want the children of the working class to go to college because it would make them more difficult to control. Here's something that I don't think is clear about education, and this may seem condescending or obvious, but it's something I may have had a vague awareness of before, but that hadn't coalesced into a full thought until recently. Education isn't just learning a bunch of facts. As you learn the facts, from different areas of knowledge: history, philosophy, sociology, civics, psychology. You begin to connect all those facts to create new ideas and have a better understanding of the world. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. This is why colleges make you take classes in many subjects, not just your major. Having a broad base of knowledge of American and world history allows you to understand what is really happening with Trump's secret police force, and what his true goal is when he snatches up Venezuela's leader. Education is like a bulletproof vest that educated people wear to avoid being seduced by Trump's lies. If anyone is indoctrinating people, it is the right-wing politicians and media indoctrinating the working class. Don't let them do it to you. Of course, Trump has college-educated supporters too. Most of those probably either benefit from his policies, or are misogynistic, or homophobic, or racist, or Stephen Miller. I'm absolutely not suggesting that everyone go to college. All paths of education are equally valid. However, don't let Trump and propaganda media suck you in. Get information from multiple sources. If someone in authority is trying to use fear to sway your thoughts, take a hard look at what they're trying to scare you about. Fear of the other is one of the favorite tools of the fascists. Hitler used it to perfection. That's all I have for this first video. My plan is to make one video per week, but since I'm just getting started with this, that may change. I've taken some steps to facilitate discussion so that this isn't just me talking at you, because my neck's starting to hurt. I created this email address to contact me directly. Let me try again. And I created a message board so we can discuss either topics that I mention here or stuff that's going on in the world. I won't be allowing any insults, threats, etc. there. I'm new at moderating a message board, so I may not be great at it at first. I hope to add other moderators too as it grows, if it grows. So let me know your thoughts and please follow. Also, if you have any tips about editing or posting videos on YouTube, please pass them along. I'm old and I'm figuring out all of this as I go along. And I know my handwriting is awful, so when I post this video, I'll try to figure out how to include links to those things somewhere. Thanks. P.S. While I would never say that I'm glad Trump happened, I mean, people have died. Families have been destroyed. Social progress has been set back 100 years. Our relations with other countries has been wrecked, all of that. But there has been a smidgy, tiny little good side to this. People have woken up. We won't be taking democracy for granted again anytime soon, I reckon. I think voter turnout will probably be going up in future elections. We're seeing the strength in people who are getting out there and protesting, risking their freedom, health, and life to stand up for what is right. I'm not sure I could do the same. We're seeing the good in the people who started food banks during the government shutdown, and in the people who let those being chased by the secret police into their cars and homes. When we get through this tumultuous time, if we get through this tumultuous time, we're going to be a better, stronger country, I hope.